All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to this edition of This Week in Pop Culture, the show in which we give you the goings on in the past said week of pop culture, whether we're talking about local news, film and TV news, tech news, sports news, and the like. We try to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And as always, I'm not going to be alone in talking about the said topics this week. I want to welcome back my co-host, my partner in crime, after being, out of commission last week. Welcome back, sir, Mr. Spillman Trueheart. What's going on?
What's going on, fans? I'm here, ladies and gentlemen. Just I was not here last week because it was a tough time for me. I'm really dealing with a big change in my life, and I don't know if you guys know, but we had a guy that we had in our lives that a lot of people didn't take as the greatest of all time. But I know he's the greatest, and we didn't treat him like he was the greatest. And I don't know what to say about that, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to get deeper into that situation later on in the show.
Yes, we will indeed get into that. As you can see in the background, we will be talking about the impact that travel had here in the DC metro area. As you know, we talk about it a lot that we are here in the DC metro area. So, talking about the airway travel, if you will, with one of our airports and how they were impacted by uh, the holidays with July 3rd and July 4th. But before we do that, we do have a birthday that we have to talk about, a centennial birthday, if you will, to dive into. And then just a spills tease. There was some more player movement. I anticipate there's going to be even more as we get closer to the NBA season and as we have, summer league that has already, jump started, already kicked into gear. So with all of that spills, shall we dive in?
Let's get it.
All right, excellent, excellent. So, as I always share with you guys when we do this show, um, there will be efforts made after the show is aired to be able to add timestamps accordingly for each of the stories. So that way, if you so choose, you can, skip forward to a given story that we talk about on this week's show. So with that, I'm going to get into the first story that we're going to talk about, which, as I teased at just a few moments ago, deals with the birthday. And this is for our birthday shout outs this week. As an icon in the comedy world turned 100 on Sunday, that person, of course, being Mr. Mel Brooks, the man who spent 7 decades making audiences laugh, thanks to a who's who of comedy classics that he has either written or directed. Classics such as The Producers, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Spaceballs, Robin Hood, Men in Tights, just to name a few. So, with that spills, obviously there are far more. I can get into some TV shows as well that are classics that actually were remade into films later on. But what is your favorite Mel Brooks property?
As a child of the late '80s, early '90s, I would have to say Robin Hood Men in Tights because that's really the first experience I had with him.
Yes, yes,
Obviously the introduction of the world to Dave Chappelle. Obviously he
Jill,
was a
yes.
comedian before then, but his first on-screen like movie was as a sneeze in Robin Hood Men in Tights. And I think that, somebody like Mel Brooks, he's celebrated all over the world, but we really don't talk about how he is the master satirist. Um, he's satired everything from the Bible to horror movies to westerns to big
Science
budget
fiction
blockbusters, science
operas,
fiction,
sci-fi operas, yes.
the whole thing. He just truly has exemplified so much of what comedy is. I think without a Mel Brooks, I'm not entirely sure that the way that the Wayans brothers have become so successful, they would be a thing. Obviously, Dave Chappelle. I don't know if he'd be a thing. Um, he was instrumental in Richard Pryor's career. That's a huge thing. Like so, obviously, great career. I would say again, Robin Hood Men in Tights, tights. That's it's one of my favorite movies. I quote it all the time. I quote it
Sorry,
all the
guys.
time.
Sorry, guys. Got to get pumped.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
indeed,
like
indeed.
also the scene where the preacher's walking through the crowd and he's like, "Hey, I'm Ants!" The guy's like, "I hate that guy." I feel like that sometimes. People say things to me sometimes, and I'm like, I don't want to talk to you right now. But just so many great lines in that movie. Um,
Unlike some Robin Hoods, I can speak with an
I can
English
speak with
accent.
an English accent. Classic. Just so much good stuff in that movie. Um,
Oh
just
man,
you
it makes
know,
you want to go back and watch it now, like actually
the
today.
scene where
So
Blinken was fighting a wooden horse and like they sped it up and he like chisels it down with a sword. Like, yeah. There's so many movies like that.
did you say
Obviously,
Abe Lincoln? No, I said hey Blinken. God
hey
damn, man.
Blinken. So many good
So
scenes.
many. Yeah. I have to agree with you, man. Like that would have been my pick too. Obviously I've gone back to see the other films as well. I do love Spaceballs, but
Yeah.
that was still that I was not old enough to really appreciate that film until watching it later when it would air on TV. And then, of course, I love it now. But Men in Tights was around at a time where I could comprehend what was going on in the movie.
Hmm.
Since we're talking early
Hot
'90s at
Shots.
that point.
Also, Hot Shots. That's a Mel Brook thing. Is Hot Shots? I think Hot
No, not
Shots.
not
No,
Hot
Hot Shots
Shots.
is just a rip on the Mel Brooks. That's
Yeah, yeah.
hilarious too, in and of itself. But so many things that Mel Brooks has done. And then
And I mean, we
also,
have a sequel that is coming out for Spaceballs, which is crazy to believe that it will be what 40 years because Spaceballs came out, I believe, in
yep. You turned 40 this
1987.
year. Yep, it came out in the
So
year
we
that you
will
were
be
born.
hitting.
So
It's supposed to be
definitely
coming
40
out next
years.
year. So yeah, we'll be hitting 40 years for that, which is
Yeah.
wild to me. But and He will be back actually in at 100 years old.
Yeah.
um he did his part as what is it, yogurt in
Hmm.
for the upcoming sequel, so looking forward to that. But yeah, man, like you can't go wrong with Robin Hood Men in Tights. We're manly men, we're men in tights, yes.
Yes.
So,
We fight
man.
for the poor and right all the wrongs. All right.
All right. Or even Blinken, what is it? Blinken, where he was like, thought he was fighting, but he was just fighting. He was just
Yeah.
fighting alone. Like, man, just so many awesome moments from that movie. So, uh, but yeah, let us
What
know
about
out
his
there.
other works that you feel like? How do you feel about like
So, I mean,
obviously Get Smart
I've
was
seen
before our
Young.
time. Have you seen Blazing Saddles or any of those kind of
Yes,
movies?
yeah, I've seen Blazing Saddles. I do like Young Frankenstein, but I would say Spaceballs is a close second for me because of all the folks that I'm actors, that I'm fans of in terms of the ensemble. I mean, you had Bill Pullman, Mr. President. We just had July 4th, right? So,
Hmm.
President from Independence Day. And we also had who else? Rick Moranis. Like, I mean, there's so many. John Candy. Like, there's so many stars from that film that are like at the height of their abilities as comedic actors. So yeah, like the theme song for Spaceballs. All the different moments. That's another movie that's very very quotable. So many lines that are quotable. So that's a close second for me very close second when we're talking about that in Robin Hood Men in Tights, and then after that, it'll probably go down the line with Young Frankenstein and then Blazing Saddles. I know for other people out there, different era. I understand that y'all
I would
probably
say
feel
Blazing
differently.
Saddles is better than Spaceballs. Because like I didn't know how influential Blazing Saddles was in my life, but my father would quote stuff from Blazing Saddles all the time to me, and I didn't know what he was talking about at first. I thought these were things that he just would say, and I'd be like, "Daddy, you crazy?" And then I saw the movie, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is just
And I
all the stuff
know
that Daddy
there are going to be many
says."
people out there that are going to say sacrilege and they're going to say Blazing Saddles, and I get it. Like,
Yeah,
it's just based on the era that you live in and what impact those films have had on you in the time that you had exposure to film and your relationship with film. So and I mean it goes down the same line when we're talking about sports too, right? We want to have folks, if they were in a
when
different
did you
era,
come in the game?
they
Yeah.
yeah they may feel Bill Russell, they may feel Larry Bird, Magic Johnson are their goats, and I mean I get that, but there's definitely rightful reason to say Blazing Saddles too, because when we're talking about classics like that, right? We're talking about films that paved the way, just like you were, sharing just moments ago, paved the way for other films to come after. A lot of other films are resting on the shoulders of those classics like Blazing Saddles. So no, wholeheartedly, I understand if someone is placing that as their, top Mel Brooks film. I get it. It's undeniable classic. It's just for me. If I'm being subjective, I'm not being objective, mind you. I'm being subjective. It's Robin Hood Men in Tights and Spaceballs for me. So,
Okay.
but for those of you out there, let me know in the comments. Is there a specific one out there? I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of folks saying, "What is wrong with you, Blazing Saddles?"
Blazing
Um,
Saddles, yeah.
and I get it. So
I'm
go
saying that
for it.
for the people, ladies and gentlemen.
Go for it.
I agree
Go
with
for
y'all. He's lunching. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Badges? We don't need no stinking badges. Like, come on, Blazing Saddles.
it.
Mondo is pawn in the game of life.
And
It's
don't get me wrong,
tremendous.
I love that movie, but again, if I'm being subjective with my Mel Brooks features, those two are I love those two movies. So yeah, but yeah, let me know in the comments, or say let us know in the
Or
comments what's your
also,
favorite.
we're forgetting one that really doesn't seem like a Mel Brooks movie, but totally is. The Producers.
Yeah, of course,
The
for
Producers is up
sure.
there too.
It is,
Springtime
it
for
definitely
Hitler.
is.
Hilarious.
Man, man,
Hilarious.
crazy. But with that, we're going to switch gears, get into some talk of sports, if you will, into our sports cooler talk. So again, happy 100th birthday to Mr. Mel Brooks, who celebrated his 100th birthday on this past Sunday. But with that, as I said, we're going to get into some talk of sports, as there was some player movement amongst the NBA, which I imagine, as I mentioned at the top, will continue as we get closer to the season, as teams continue to make moves to maximize their team's chances to be there when it's all said and done in the postseason. So starting on Monday, we had the Memphis Grizzlies trade two-time NBA All-Star Ja Morant to the Portland Trailblazers for Jeremiah Grant and Chris Murray. This was per Shams Charania. Uh, Additionally, that same day, the Atlanta Hawks declined Jonathan Kuminga's 24.3 million team option, making him a free agent. There have, as of right now, been talks that the Lakers, the Cavs, and the Bucks are being determined as likely destinations. And of course, he may still end up back with the Hawks too, but at least in terms of other teams outside of the current team that declined his team option, those are the teams that are being thrown out there. We have Landry, excuse me, Shamet, who uh, is intended to sign, or I should say at this point has signed a new 4-year, 24 million deal to return to the New York Knicks. Of course, the Knicks won the title this past season, so they likely want to keep one of their key pieces on the team to continue that chemistry, team chemistry that they've had for that championship team. Moving on to Tuesday, LeBron James announced that to the Lakers that he would be moving on from the team and looking onwards to other opportunities per news shared by his agent to Shams Charania, NBA insider Shams Charania. And then, of course, shortly after he announced that he would be leaving the team, Bronny James, his contract became fully guaranteed for 2.3 million. So uh, he was actually able to, and I know I did the order a little differently, but his contract actually became guaranteed before LeBron James officially made the announcement that he was leaving the team. So clearly, there he already had an idea that he wasn't going to stay with the Lakers, but being business savvy, if you will, he waited until there was confirmation with Bronny James securing his contract. It would seem optics wise before he made the official announcement that he would be leaving the Lakers. Because let's be honest, we know that having Bronny on a team was a package deal with LeBron James, no matter what people will tell you otherwise. But we will dive into that before when it's all said and done. But I'm going to get into a couple of other things before we get to that particular topic. Also on Tuesday, so this was June 30th, the Los Angeles Clippers were able to send Kawhi Leonard to the Toronto Raptors for Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, two first round picks, one pick swap, and then two second rounders. This was news that was told to ESPN. And then on Wednesday, so Wednesday, July 1st, we have Marcus Smart agreed to a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Houston Rockets, leaving the Lakers. So a key, defensive piece leaving the Lakers. We had the Knicks star Mitchell Robinson agreed to a 3-year, $47.4 million contract with the Boston Celtics. And then staying on the topics of the Celtics, which Spills, I definitely want to get your thoughts on this. The Celtics traded Jaylen Brown to the 76ers for Paul George, two first round picks, and two second round picks. And then last but not least, the San Antonio Spurs welcomed Tobias Harris, adding, another a veteran role player to their already impressive, ensemble of players. So, Spillman, with all of that, I know it's quite a mouthful. We can start first with what was shared on Monday amongst us, the big John Morant trade, and then even with the Jonathan Kaminga matter of the declining option. What are your thoughts?
So, um, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a rough week in the NBA. My franchise is completely different. Obviously, we went the way
Yes,
that
a
we
boy
that
band
the
now.
franchise, yeah, the franchise always goes the way of the younger player, whoever that player is, because obviously basketball and sports in general is an age game. And if you've got a young star and an old star, you got to build around the young star. That just is what makes sense. Obviously we traded for Luka Doncic because Anthony Davis was not going to lead us to championships after LeBron James or even attempt to. So we had to make the move we had to make. Um, I imagine that LeBron thought that he was going to get a Kobe package. Obviously LeBron had a Hall of Fame career just with the Lakers. He won a
Well,
chip.
hold
He
on to
went
the
to
Lakers real quick because I
he
do
was
want to
on
dive
eight
into that
all-star
still.
teams. He was all NBA 7 times. That's a Hall of Fame career before you even get into some of the accolades he had. He went to a conference finals with us. We won an NBA Cup, the inaugural NBA Cup.
Well, I
So
want to hold Spills. I want to hold on that real quick.
it's
Let's
been a
get into
hard
John
couple of
Morant first
days
because we
dealing with
want to get into
LeBron
that.
not wanting to play for my franchise anymore. I think that LeBron obviously is the GOAT. Sad to see him leave, but I understand where it is that he's trying to go with his career. I don't think that we were in contention for next year, so I see what they like. Even with the moves we've made, that ain't no conference finals team right now. You know, they look like people that Luca wants to be around, but I think that's it.
Well,
I think that
Spills,
Kaminga, moving on to some of the other pieces. Can you hear me?
yeah, can you hear
I can't
me?
hear you. No, we can't hear you. But okay, it
Okay.
doesn't matter. We don't need to hear Brandon. We're talking about the Lakers, ladies and gentlemen. I know that I didn't text Brandon this week when they were saying LeBron was going to go to the Warriors, because if that does happen, I don't think it's going to happen anymore. The Wizards made some moves that looks like they're trying to move on from Anthony Davis, and maybe they're going to trade him, but I doubt it seriously. Um, if LeBron signs with the Warriors, they're not going to win a chip either. They're a bunch of old guys. I don't think that. Sure, the U.S. men's national team would basically be that team, but I don't think that we really realized how much the rest of that team was holding up that team. Sure, Kevin Durant was also there, but if y'all get him, we're gonna have to change this whole Michael Jordan GOAT conversation. Because if he wins a championship with the Warriors, you can't not say that he is not the GOAT. Because he would have won a championship in every franchise he came to, something Michael Jordan never did. Michael Jordan
Can you
didn't
hear
win
me
for the
now?
Wizards. He did not win for the Wizards. And
Can
I
you hear me
think
now?
that, I hate to always turn it into a LeBron versus Michael Jordan thing. If he wins another championship with another franchise in his 40s, what could you say bad about the man? He's had a Hall of Fame. That would mean he'd have another Hall of Fame career at whatever team he went to, even if it's only for 2 years and they win a chip in the second or first year. That would just be amazing. 25 years in the league, four franchises, four championships, five championships because he got two in Miami. I don't know. What do you have to say about this, Brandon?
Are you able to hear me
You're
now?
still muted.
No, not muted. Okay. Uh, so let me say this, and I think it may be a a slight
Yeah,
technical
okay.
difficulty, but it's all good. W- when we're talking about John Morant, I think the thing to and we've had this discussion before. Actually, are you still able to hear me now?
No,
Okay. So I'll
I'm gonna
try
go
again.
in and
I'll
come
come
back
back
out
on.
and see if.
Yeah. So while we're waiting on Spills to return, and talking about Morant, let's see if we
Okay,
have.
yeah. Now
Hear
I
me
can
now?
hear you. Now I can
Okay.
hear you.
I think it just broke our audio, but it's all good. But we are back. So getting into John Morant, I want to because I want to be able to get into more of what you talked about. I want to give you the floor for LeBron to dive deeper into that. But to start first with John Morant, we talked about in a prior show, just the fact that this divorce needed to happen.
Oh yeah.
So it's still a bummer to see that he's going with the Trailblazers because I don't know how that's going to work with Damian Lillard. I don't know if that's a good fit because even Damian Lillard, even though he is a terrific scorer, a lot of times when we have terrific scorers, I say that they would make more sense as a shooting guard. But in his case, with him being a smaller guard, I feel like he is, a modernized version of what we have with point guards, where it makes more sense for him to play the point than to play a shooting guard because I can't imagine him defending against the larger two guards that you have in the league. So I would have liked to see John Morant on another team, perhaps like the Miami Heat or the what is it the Milwaukee Bucks, perhaps. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, anything can happen. Any weird, crazy transaction can happen. Multiple team transaction can happen. But do you feel like it's a good fit? Maybe you feel differently of him being with the Trailblazers versus another team.
So I actually feel completely different. I feel like Ja is in a better position than he would be in Miami or in Milwaukee. Obviously, with his temperament, living in those kind of towns would not be good for Ja. I think that Ja needs to have somewhere where he could just focus on the basketball and re-get his career, similar to what happened to Chris Webber when they moved him from DC to Sacramento. He needed time to just be inside and be like, "Hey, man, you need to play basketball and focus on the basketball. You can't be focused on going to the club or being posted up or whatever it is. You need to focus on the basketball. Otherwise, you're going to lose this. And you're way too talented to lose something like this over your attitude." I think that Damian Lillard is not a starting level player anymore in the NBA. I think that we saw him in Milwaukee, and he was never at his level that he was in Portland, in Milwaukee. And last year, I didn't feel like I saw that maybe he averaged 20 points, but I don't think that that is winning basketball to continue to rely on him, especially post that injury that he had. I think that having John Morant and a backcourt of John Morant and Drew Holiday, I think that that would be the best starting five for them right now. Mixing in Damian Lillard as a six man. I understand that, I know that the NBA hierarchy works a certain way, and if you've been in the game a certain amount of time, you're gonna start. But if they're going to make that team great, you can't start both of them together. But I do think that Ja needs to be around someone who is like Dame Lillard, who is focused on the game, and the game is the most important thing. And he could learn a lot of the things on how to manage his career that he really hasn't had guidance on, since most of the other Grizzlies were much younger players. I think being with somebody like Drew Holiday, who is one in two different franchises and knows how to get at winning basketball, I think that those are good things. They got too many point guards on the team already. That's for sure.
I'm just saying. I'm
It's
just
too many
saying.
point guards, but
Like, you have
they
too
had
many
too many
players
point
that can
guards
do the same
today.
thing, I feel.
They had too many point guards today. They're gonna get rid of most of those guys. There's no way. I don't see how they don't keep on hold on to anybody outside of Dame, um,
Drew.
Ja, and Drew Holiday. The rest of the other players, you don't know they are. I don't know who they are. They weren't a great team last year. They're slightly better with Ja on the roster now, but they're gonna make moves to get some of those guys and move them into new places. I think that again, he needs to be somewhere where he can get away from the spotlight. Memphis is like possibly the worst town that he could have gone to. It's a miracle something worse didn't happen with him with some of the shenanigans we've heard about him and how he's behaving in like public and stuff. I think that Portland can be a place because it's up there in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe he'll be able to get away with it. But, it wasn't great for Rasheed Wallace, but that was Rasheed Wallace's first stop. I think that as his second stop, especially after he sat on the bench for a year, essentially, this will be a good change of pace for him to realize the basketball is a basketball. And maybe he'll leave his father in Memphis. Hopefully he leaves his father in Memphis and some of those people that hang around him, but I don't see that happening. But yeah.
I was gonna say, at the end of the day, I feel like it is up to that player. And yes, I understand that that he's still a relatively young guy, but you've had a couple of years in the NBA. I feel like at this point you are not a rookie. You're not able to utilize the rookie excuse of saying, "Oh, I just came across this money. I just came across this life of being a professional athlete." You've been an athlete for a couple of years, have had incredible success being, an all-star and all of that, and being, people forget this. At one point, the Grizzlies were, among the elite teams in the Western Conference. Before we were talking about Wemby, before we were talking about the Thunder, like they were on the rise for a while there. So, and just like it is in sports, how quickly folks can get, what have you done for me lately, right? But I don't I don't know if, and we'll see, but I don't know if Drew and Dame have the temperament to be able to mentor Morant, because that was one thing I remember in our last conversation and talking about Ja Morant and whatever new team he joins, is having a big enough personality as a co-star, if you will, or as a co-lead that can help reel you in. And now that we have Giannis on the Heat, can you imagine what that could have been like if you had Bam, Giannis, and Ja Morant on the same team on the Miami Heat? Like that would have
That
been
would not be a
incredible.
good team to me. I feel like there's not enough passing involved in that team. It would be too much me ball. They would
I
need
don't
somebody to
know.
distribute.
I
They
feel
would.
like Morant, you know, if he had a teammate at the caliber of a Bam and a Giannis, we could be talking about someone who can help stretch his career more because let's be honest, he's an incredibly freakish athlete, but when you are called on to do so much, I feel like in terms of your uh uh the how long your career is going to last is going to be substantially shorter versus being able to put some of that effort and some of that load of what you're bringing to the team with another player. If he can rely on a Giannis or a Bam to to give you 20, 30 points a game, then he doesn't have to do a whole bunch. He can still be the Ja Morant that we know and expect him to be, but he doesn't have to push himself into another gear that can ultimately result in more injuries down the line. So, and we've seen it. Like he is a willing passer. It's not like he's a type of player who's selfish on that team. I feel like that might be the perception of the way he plays, just based on who else they had on the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, there were a lot of role players on that team, and not necessarily enough players that were, viable co-leads or co-stars on that team. So it's very easy, I feel, to kind of give him that reputation or that putting that perception on him. But I mean, if you watched him, throughout the time that he was with the Grizzlies, he's a fully capable passer if you give him someone to play with. If when we were watching the All Star games, it's not like he was trying to score every single time. He's a willing passer as well. So um, that's just my perception. But getting into Jonathan Kaminga, uh, do you feel like he's going to end up with the Hawks, or if he ends up with another team? Between those potential candidates that were mentioned, whether it's the Lakers, the Cavs, or the Bucks, what team do you like the best? And I know you might be a little biased on this, or maybe you may surprise me and be objective.
I'm objective. I don't want him on my team. I don't think Jonathan Kuminga's that good. I don't want
Oh,
him playing on my
okay,
Lakers. We
okay.
don't have no small forward right now. Sign that dude with the beard. I don't know who that dude is. Um, but I also don't know who Jonathan Kuminga is. I only know of Jonathan Kuminga because he couldn't get on the page of a coach that won 73 games. Then he got sent to the Hawks. And true, they did beat the champions, the only team to beat them two times this postseason. Um, but I don't believe in Jonathan Kaminga. I feel like somebody who isn't mature enough to take coaching or to try to accept the role that you know obviously was needed. I think that he was worried about his spacing, but I think that honestly he wasn't deserving of those shots that he was demanding in Golden State. I think that he could have done better as a defender and playmaker during that time with them instead of clogging the ball up, keeping the ball moving. I don't want to see him on the Lakers because he'll just make me upset, and I'll just be like, because they're going to pay premium prices for Jonathan Kaminga because we know his name, but I don't think he's worth those premium prices. I don't think that Jonathan Kaminga.
Ah,
He's probably going to end up signing with Milwaukee for a bunch of money because they don't have nobody that's good no more. Um, so I think that obviously they got all of those cast offs from the Heat, but they're going to try to get him to try to make it into a youth movement to try to build to the future. But I see maybe he could go to Milwaukee. Maybe he'll return to Atlanta, but I think Atlanta or Milwaukee. If he comes to the Lakers, then I for sure will know that the King is not returning to the Lakers. Even though he said he wasn't returning already, I was hoping that maybe he would return. But that ain't how LeBron moves. LeBron, if he was going to stay with us, he would have just signed the tender in like April or something when we lost. But he didn't do that. So I'm
I don't
saying.
know. So here's my thought. I do like. I'm gonna go against what you said, and I actually like him with the Lakers. I mean, right now with the Lakers, you guys have a boy band right now, and y'all need some y'all need some brothers on that team. Especially if y'all plan on making any like postseason noise. I don't know if that's gonna work with the boy band situation. Um, don't get me wrong, you have good players there. I just can't see with the players that the lineup that you currently have constructed, if they are able to match up with teams where they are going to have to play great defense against. We've seen time and time again, no matter how good of an offensive player Austin Reeves is, you're going to have to hide him on defense because he gets picked apart on defense. The same goes for what is it, Luka Doncic, incredible offensive juggernaut, undeniably. But when we're talking about, as Kendrick Perkins says, moving those puppies, like he doesn't. Yeah, he struggles doing that. He struggles, playing D and defending. So he's another player, yet another player that you're going to have to hide on defense, and that problem doubles when you have two players on the floor at the same time that both have trouble playing defense. It makes it easier when it's just one. We saw that with the Knicks, but when you have two players that understandably you guys are going to have starting, you need some folks that can play D and can defend. Um, and can also, bring you some offense. I like Jonathan Kaminga over Rui Hachimura. Anyone can fight me on that. I don't care. I
I
like
don't
Jonathan
agree.
Kaminga over Rui Hachimura. So um, I like him with the Lakers. If he were to go on some of those two Eastern teams, I don't really like him with the Bucks because I can't really see them going anywhere. I want to put him on a team where they are on the incline and they just need that additional piece to kind of take them over the top. The Lakers, I feel like he could fit in there. The Cavs, I feel like he could also fit in there because if you're putting him with potentially LeBron James. We'll get to that if he ends up back home, or pairing him with the rest of the guys that you have there with James Harden. James Harden is going to make his life very easy of being able to distribute the ball to him. The same goes with having Spider on that team. So like you have already a ton of pieces on that team, and I feel like Kaminga will place them right there of potentially being title contenders and actually being able to match up against the Knicks, because I feel like he would cause matchup problems, especially considering the player that they just let go of with the Knicks that we just said went to the Celtics, who was
Hmm.
a nice piece for them, especially as someone who provided a body against some of the front courts that you have on some of the other teams, the opposing teams. So but getting into LeBron, I know you talked on it, kind of early in this segment, but technically you guys have LeBron. Remember, you guys do have Bronny James. Y'all
We
technically
do
have
have LeBron. We do have LeBron James.
you technically have LeBron. You just don't have the
Yeah.
LeBron James that you want.
We don't
Uh,
have LeBron Bron. We got to make it
so
work. So
But I will say, we as much as we joke about you know, um, LeBron James, and I've gone on record many times of talking about how he is not the GOAT, much to the chagrin of my co-host here, who believes that he is. It will be interesting should he decide to go to the Golden State Warriors, because as people know, Golden State is my team. So it will provide an interesting dynamic. Let's put it that way. So hopefully, he ends up with the Cavs. I do like that fit a lot better. I'll be honest with you because I don't see AD coming over to the Warriors. I see him staying in DC with what they have going on there. Um, other people out there may think differently, but me personally, I don't see the Wizards relinquishing AD um, to get what Butler on their team and maybe some draft picks. I don't see that happening. And let's be honest, I don't see the Wizards willing to make the Lakers better
They've
by
done
having.
it so many other times before, Brandon. Why would they stop now?
I know, I know. I should
They
say,
that
or
the
making the Warriors
Wizards.
better. Excuse me, I'm saying the
I'm
Lakers
sorry.
making
That's
the
why I'm sorry.
Warriors
I got
better.
so upset,
I
ladies
meant
and
to say the
gentlemen. I
Warriors
was going to
better.
say we one time traded and then got tons of players
Yeah,
from them.
I don't see the Wizards trying to make the Warriors better. A lot of times, team, understandably so, you want to selfishly get the most value for the trades that you're doing. Which, let's be honest, and this is a great segue, is not something that I feel the Celtics executed properly of getting rid of Jalen Brown and what they got back with Paul George and the picks that they have. Because don't get me wrong, Paul George, he had a good, not a great, but he had a good postseason this year with the
Philadelphia 76ers.
76ers. Yeah, he had a decent season this year, so I understand how, because of, again, that thought process of what have you done for me lately, that those prior years of him being out and not being available, actively available due to injury, with him obviously being getting up there in age, that they were willing to bite the bullet on that. But from what I understand, they were also hoping, and I think it kind of fell through. They were hoping to also get what is it, Edgecombe too. And I was like, there's no way they're going to relinquish Edgecombe and Paul George for Jalen Brown. So now on the Sixers, you're looking at what? You're looking at the speedster with help me out here, their point guard.
Maxi.
Yeah, Maxi. Now you also have Edgecombe and you have Jalen Brown. And you also have who had a decent season, and hopefully he can have a healthier season than he did what is it, this past season, because he was still hobbling towards the end of the past season with their center with
Joel
uh
Embiid.
Joel Embiid. Thank you. Brain farted on names today, but I mean, they have a decent squad. So, what are your thoughts on what happened or transpired there with the Celtics and the 76ers?
I think that the Celtics actually made a worse deal than what was rumored to have been the deal on the table, because I heard they could have got Giannis Antetokounmpo, and
Mm.
I think that by them not getting Giannis,
They had to settle.
they they not only settled, but I feel like they got worse in a way that
Oh no, they
doesn't make
undoubtedly got
sense.
worse. And it's a bummer too because they had a decent season this year that they could have built off, especially with having Jason Tatum back being healthy. And now they're taking a step back where I think they set themselves back by like a couple of years at this point. Because,
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be able to get past that Paul George, the contract that they have there. That's going to hurt. And I feel like I'm getting some deja vu of what happened with what you had with Paul George, and I
And
don't
Kevin
know if
Garnett.
not even Kevin Garnett with SGA
Oh
way
yeah.
back when we had that trade, and that was the trade that people look back on now and they're like, man, like it could have been a completely different thing there. Maybe we would be talking about that situation far earlier, in terms of what transpired there, in terms of winning a title, had SGA not been traded in that transaction that included Paul George. Because hindsight being 2020, Paul George was at a different point of his career. He was a little earlier in his career, so he was a proven commodity versus SGA, who was still finding his way. But I'm sure that franchise of that trade that was made there when they had that Clippers trade where SGA was sent to the Thunder for Paul George and others. So um, and then I was going to say, last but not least, I mean, the other big, major, big name move that we saw there was the Raptors getting Kawhi Leonard back. So, what do you think of that?
I think that that is also a case of you know, getting older players. Obviously, Kawhi was pretty good with the Clippers this year, but he's unpredictable with what he will do. And also his motivation. I feel like at this point, I like Kawhi. He's great. He's a great like Omar type character in NBA history. If y'all center didn't mess his knee up that year, y'all wouldn't have even the lost to the Cavs. Y'all would have lost to the Spurs that year. But we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about how scared y'all looked. Um, but I just think that it's great to see that he was able to um, move back to Toronto. It's nostalgic.
And he's had a
It's
credible couple of seasons recently. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
understand why there was a push to have him come back. He's demonstrated that, hopefully, at least in the last couple of seasons, that he's passed his his reputation of being not being available due to injury.
Haven't listened to the recent Drake albums. I feel like this was a Drake move. I feel like they specifically made this move because Drake made a great line about how DeRozan didn't get him any championships, and then Kawhi, would we ever want him back around? He said that, and that was pretty funny. And he's back in town, so I think that sometimes people go back places that they feel comfortable, and he can't go back to the Spurs. They don't want him in that town. He ran his way out of there. So seeing him possibly going um to
The Raptors.
the Raptors is great, but I feel like he's at the twilight of his career. It's gonna be weird seeing him back there because he'll look the same physically, but he won't be the same strength wise or ability wise because he's had too many knee injuries.
So you don't
It's
think that he'll be
interesting.
able to continue that momentum from the past two seasons with what he's
Not
been able
really.
to do?
No, I don't. I bet low on players at the point of their career, much like I said earlier with Damian Lillard. I don't think that you can count on them to do the things that we're asking them to. Um, so yeah, but I do think that the real question is where's LeBron going to actually go? Because he ain't going to go back to the
I say Cleveland.
Lakers.
I
I
don't
think he's
know if
going to
he's
go
gonna go.
to Philly.
Okay, all right. So with Edgecombe and those boys, so
I feel
Edgecombe with
like that would
Maxey,
be the one.
and
That
it's
would be the
because you
one.
feel like. Do you feel like it's because of that Jalen Brown move?
I feel like the Jalen Brown move, but also how he would fit in with that team.
I would agree with you, but it concerns me with their center with help me out.
Embiid.
Yeah, with Embiid, of his in the same way that we have been talking about with on the Raptors too, is that I can't see him being willing to go into the twilight of his career potentially of still having concern over whether their center is going to be reliable. At least with the Cavs for the most part are healthy. We're not dealing with any major injuries, and on top of that, like I said, that the with the free agents that are still out there, they still can make another move that can really make things interesting in terms of what they're working with. So, as I said, you have James Harden, you have Spider, you have potentially, and I know it may not turn out to be true, but man, like I'm just saying on paper, potentially Jonathan Kaminga if they get Jonathan
I
Kaminga.
wouldn't want to be on no team with no James Harden because he shows up not when you need him. You saw
But
how he crumbled
again,
against the Knicks this year. I was
again,
talking
I
so good
agree with
about
you.
him.
I
I
agree
don't
with
think
you.
that LeBron James wants any parts of him. I don't think he wants any parts of Spider. Spider's good, but Spider don't play no defense either. But LeBron's gonna be playing all the defense? I don't think so. Um, even that power forward can't shoot no good. Like that's not
So,
how
so
LeBron's
if that were the
teams.
case, what is your answer for the Embiid uncertainty?
I don't think that they need Embiid until June. They won't need him but one or two series in the playoffs. He can work on his body. We don't need to count on him. Part of the reason why Jalen Brown is there is because they don't want to have to lean on Embiid too much. So they have three dynamic wings already on the team. It's not
Okay.
that much shooting. You want to have more shooting on a LeBron team to me. Max can shoot a little bit. I think Maxi's good at shooting.
But you need role players that can shoot. You
And
need
Embiid
shoot.
can
You
shoot.
need you need
Embiid can shoot. Yeah,
and you
we
need
need
shooting
more.
specialists. You need more though.
But I feel like LeBron turns people into shooting specialists. So I feel like if you average 35, if you play with LeBron, you might be 38 or 39. I think he gives you that much of a bump just by getting you the ball in the right place and having that much gravity. And with all the other players on the team, I think with Jalen Brown, I think Jalen Brown and LeBron would look like D Wade and him in the Heat, except that maybe Jalen Brown is doing more of the jumping. So I think that I hate to say this. I'm so happy that the Celtics got rid of Jalen Brown because they were going to be favorites in the East if they didn't make that move, and I don't see why they did. They could have gotten they could have gotten they just I'm just so happy that the Celtics aren't going to get a chip anytime soon so that the Lakers can try to catch up. The boy band, we're going to put out no strings, and then next thing you know, it's going to be May, and then we'll be in the conference finals and into the championships. But yeah, I think that the Sixers, I don't really worry about Embiid because of the positions in the NBA. Having a center that's not always there, it doesn't hurt you as much as it used to. I think that having LeBron and the rest of those guys will be much better for them. So I think that that's where the focus will be.
I guess my only concern with that is if you don't have Embiid there, then that means that ideally in some circumstances, you're going to have LeBron playing the five when you're playing small. It's not unheard of to see him do that. And then on top of that, too, you're going to also potentially having him play the four. Which I mean, don't get me wrong. LeBron is a it's a specimen. He's a big dude, but he is at the end of the day really more of a small forward than he is a power forward. You can place him in power forward and on a couple of possessions, and maybe that would have even made more sense even a little earlier in his career. But now that he's a little older, I don't know if that would make sense to do, to kind of have him wear himself down in the paint as a four or a five. So
I don't
like
worry
that
about that
concerns me a
actually.
little bit.
Actually, I think that that will work because he could just do that kind of like skip pass and stuff he was doing with the Lakers last year. There's less competition at the power forward position than there are. We're trying to keep up with those faster, younger guards and slashing forwards. I think that him being a power forward actually works better for him because of his strength and durability. I think that at this point in his career, he's like a prime Carl Malone. We don't want to say his name. Go back in, ladies and gentlemen, and bleep out that name I just said. Don't say his name. But I think that he could perfectly play power forward. He did it a lot last year. He played power forward with the Lakers in the Rocket series that we won last year. So I don't think that he could be the point guard. Um, he could just play. He could play as a glorified, a rich man's Draymond Green, and I don't see a problem with that. A rich man's Draymond with better shooting and better decision making. I don't see what's not to like. Really, wherever he goes is going to be a title contender because they're not picking from sorry teams like the Wizards. So yeah.
No, I hear you. I hear you. So let us know in the comments, what your thoughts are, guys, of some of the player movements that we have had. As I said, I touched on a couple of them. Obviously, there have been, more than that, but I wanted to touch on some of the major ones. The major ones being what transpired between the 76ers and the Celtics, what we had with the moves of some franchise players, of Ja Morant finally divorcing from the Grizzlies, of LeBron making the announcement that he would no longer be with the boy band Lakers, of Bronny remaining with the Lakers, because we thought that would have been a package deal, of Kaminga still being out there, trying to connect with a said team. So yeah, we will see. But now we are going to head over into our main topic story. So as you can see, as I said in the background, seeing that we did have some news as it pertained to the holiday, the small little holiday that uh, we had this weekend, of course, being 4th of July. If you were looking at the attire, I tried to have the attire be appropriate for this said weekend with the red, white, and blue, but with the collared shirt here, red, white, and blue. But we did have some delays that transpired not only on Friday but yesterday as well. So in getting into that, this was an announcement that was made by the FAA over in mid June. And this was in regards to restrictions in terms of closures that would be made to Reagan Airport. It was a 15-hour closure. So on Friday, June 3rd, it was announced that there would be no flights between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then, of course, on July 4th, there would be no flights following noon, so from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. These closures forced travelers looking to arrive into DC to utilize other airports as well as alternate days to be able to arrive. So, Spills, your thoughts on the decision to have these closures over the weekend? I know that there had been some you know, people going both ways with it, some that were against it, some that were for it, excuse me. So what were your thoughts?
You know,
Oh, go ahead.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
got you.
We mute, unmute, mute, unmute. Hello.
Got
All right, we're back. Live show. Um, I think that with the plane crash that they had last year, that happened here, and the number of planes that were flying around. If you haven't seen, they had those F-35s flying around like they were going out of style, man. I heard planes and stuff flying around all day on the fourth.
Yeah, and a lot of
Truly,
times, I was gonna say a lot of times they have them hovering because they are not allowed to land, so they actually have them
yeah.
do hovers, around their airports before they're actually able to land during those times without this closure. But go ahead.
Yeah, so the air traffic controllers, excuse me, the aircraft controllers that we have, they can't deal with all those kind of flights. It's too many flights, and it's also sporadic flight patterns that these pilots were flying. So, excuse me.
Bless
To
you.
me, I apologize. To me, I think that it was warranted. With the fireworks displays that they had in the whole nine, it was just safer for everybody. Just take the bus from Baltimore, or you go to Dallas. You can take
That's
an
what
Uber
that's what I
from
don't
Dallas.
understand. Like, here's the thing. I
We
know a
are
lot of
we are
people.
airport rich in this area. We got lots of airports that you can land at.
I was about to say that. Like, I don't understand. I know for some people they enjoy that idea of being able to. Some people apparently purposefully have flights, and I don't understand why someone would do this, but they purposely schedule flights, during the celebration in the hopes that perhaps in having those hover kind of patterns that the planes prior had to do. before landing if they were caught up in the celebration that was going on, that they would be able to see the fireworks from above in the sky. But I'm like, if they're shooting fireworks into the sky, do you want to be in an airplane that's in the sky at the same time? I would imagine not. So, and with that too, if it's so imperative for you to get into the DC metro area, there are other airports, just as mentioned, Spills. There are other airports that people have access to, unlike some other destinations, some other cities that have one major airport, and if you're lucky they might have a second one. We have three. We have
And
BWI,
those are
we
just
have
major
Dulles.
airports. We got lots
Right.
of little ones you can land on,
Right.
little
But
puddle
playing
jumpers.
devil's advocate, I'm saying for the most part, for most travelers, you have BWI, you have Dulles, and you have Reagan. Like, you have three. So you're telling me that it's an issue for you to be able, you can't avoid coming in during this period that the airport that's closest to the celebration is closed, that it's so impossible for you to be able to do another airport. I can understand if all three airports were closed during this period, but it's just the one, and it's understandably the one that is in the vicinity of where you normally would have a lot of these we have the celebrations with the fireworks. Like I said, me personally, maybe other people feel differently. I'd rather be safe. I'd rather not, have to rather not think about it. Mind you, also, I probably wouldn't be coming in on 4th of July anyway. But let's say hypothetically that it couldn't be avoided, and maybe I had something, a flight rescheduled, and I couldn't control what day I was coming in, and I had to come in on 4th of July. And it just so happened to be during a period of celebration. I don't want to have to think about being in the sky and then also having fireworks that are being shot in the skies as I'm trying to, land back, back home. Like, that's not something I want to think about. I want to be able to think
But the
about,
likes on Instagram, man, the likes on Instagram,
I want to
bro.
be able to land safely. So, I mean, maybe you guys out there feel differently, but it doesn't seem like that big of an inconvenience, because let's be honest, most people on 4th of July around that time are celebrating around that time anyway. This also gives an opportunity for people who are at in those SID positions, having the opportunity to take leave also, with their SID loved ones on 4th of July weekend. And then here's the other thing: if you're coming in for that celebration, right, wouldn't you imagine that you would try to get in early? And as I mentioned with July 3rd, it's not like July 3rd had a 12-hour closure period. It was literally a 3-hour block out of the entire day. So, the any other time outside of that 3-hour block, you were able to arrive into, Reagan. And the fact that they didn't do more time on July 4th, is I wouldn't be surprised at. But the fact that they were able to at least allow people the opportunity to get in by 12 o'clock is, I feel, I don't see how that is a huge uh, uh, limitation or inconvenience, especially with the two other airports that we have, and especially with what you have available these days to be able to get to and from those other airports. I remember a time where you couldn't get to Dulles without having to catch a taxi or catch certain bus routes to get to Dulles. These days, you can now catch a train to get all the way out to Dulles. Same goes with BWI. Like, there's so many different ways that you can get to BWI via subway or via a light rail line to get to BWI. And it's very inexpensive. It's not like it's expensive either. It's what, $9, if you will, getting
That's
on the
a
light.
quarter of what a Uber would cost on a
Yeah,
good
it's
day.
what you guys would pay for a coffee at Starbucks, folks. is what you could use to be able to travel to BWI. So yeah, I know there have been a lot of talk of like this is like unheard of and why they doing it, and for me, I'd rather be safe than sorry. And like you said, with all the other matters that had happened when it comes to Reagan Airport, why add the extra added trouble of having fireworks in the sky at the same time that you're trying to land? So because as I said, a lot of times they have to do those hover patterns a lot of times anyway. So why risk that? But you can
Hmm.
let us know down in the comments your thoughts on it. That's going to do it for us here at This Week in Pop Culture with Movers and Shakers Unlimited. I'm going to punt it over to Spills. Spills, can you tell folks where they can find you?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Truly Spill on Instagram.com. We will be there talking about our sad days and weeks ahead as we learn what LeBron James will do. He's not any less the GOAT. I'm not like some Lakers fan who say he wasn't a great Laker. He'll I believe he's going to come back. I think that maybe he wants to be in a boy band. Um, but I doubt that. So yeah, Brandon, back to you.
All right. So, as I mentioned at the top, you can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and then Brandon Choi underscore ENT on Instagram. Also, be on the lookout because we will be Spills and I that is will be back a little later this evening to do a live watch of House of the Dragon. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to be doing that at I know Spills, you'll probably be joining us at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that's 6 p.m. for those of you out in the Pacific Standard Time. But I plan on getting on a little early, around 8:45, just to kind of get the ball rolling and talk about some things of what happened in the prior episode, just so we have some time, so that way we're able to seamlessly segue into episode 3 without any interruption. So I plan on getting on with that around 8:30. So if you want to like to join us and watch the show with us as we talk about it, feel free. But yeah, that's going to do it. Otherwise, for us here at This Week in Pop Culture on Movers and Shakers Unlimited, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there and see
Peace,
y'all soon.
peace.